Hello, I'm Dana Bergdorf, Fort Worth Assistant City Manager, and I'm honored to join the Tarrant County League of Women Voters in celebrating the centennial of the 19th Constitutional Amendment, which enfranchised some 20 million American women. We are especially grateful to our video sponsors, Ardent Spirit Consulting and the Rick Ward Law Firm. To honor the women in politics today, the League awarded the Democracy Star to 6 Tarrant County elected officials who are women and were selected by their respective parties for recognition. Our thanks go out to Republican Party Chair Rick Barnes. We invited the awardees to share highlights of their political experiences with our interviewer, Karen Nicholson, a Texan and long-serving officer of the League of Women Voters in the United States. On this video, you will meet Sharen Wilson, one of our Democracy Stars. As the first woman elected as the Criminal District Attorney of Tarrant County, Sharen created the first special teams for prosecution of intimate partner violence and elder financial fraud. She also created the first conviction integrity unit in the county. I am honored to present Karen Nicholson interviewing Sharen Wilson.
Welcome, Criminal District Attorney Sharen Wilson from Tarrant County. We are so excited to have you with us today. First, congratulations on the Democracy Star Award. But even more than that, we're anxious to talk to you about being a female elected official. So let's start with that obvious first question. Why did you run for elected office?
So I first ran for elected office in 1989. And I ran because the job I ran for was the job I have now. So I was, I guess, 32 or 33 when I ran to be district attorney for Tarrant County. I lost that election, but I ran because I thought I'd do a better job. And I think it's in God's wisdom that I didn't win that time because I think I'm a lot better now than I would have been at that first race.
Well, talk to us a little bit more about why you're better now than if you had won the first time. That's pretty intriguing.
You know, I honestly do believe that people mellow as they get older. I certainly understand more the intricacies of the job. So when I ran the first time, for me, being district attorney was really about the criminal side. But really, for being district attorney, it is so much more than just the criminal prosecution in Tarrant County because we do represent every elected official. You know, the sheriff, the tax assessor, the commissioners, the county judge, every elected official. We do the employment law for every person in Tarrant County, and that's about 4,500 employees. So we're very, very busy. We actually have a contract with John Peter Smith Hospital and do work for them also. So there's so much more to it that I think when I ran in 1989, I didn't even realize. So learning more, having a broader experience. By the time I finally became district attorney, I'd been a judge for 23 years. I'd been a defense attorney and I'd been a prosecutor before that. So I think that broader range of experience helped me a lot as I got the job later.
Well, let's talk about running for office. What advice would you give to women, particularly if they wanted to run for office?
So the advice I would give to a woman or a man right now running for office is stay off social media. You know, I mean, we look at people's social media when they apply for jobs here, you know, people that, you know, if you're a lawyer and you want to come here to work, then you ought to be smart enough to keep your social media on private because not everybody needs to know what you're doing on the weekend. I don't need to know. I don't want to know. And I think the other thing, especially for candidates, is you as a candidate need to stay off looking at social media because you either know what you believe and you're doing what you believe because it's right and it's fair and in our job just. And that's what it is, regardless of who hates you or who says stuff about you on social media. And it's important to have a thick skin, but you also don't have to just, you know, make yourself the subject of looking at everything that everybody ever says about you. I think it's always good to just stay off social media.
Okay, that's really good general advice. Do you think there's anything different about a woman running from office than, say, a man or even people of color?
So, you know, for a woman, back when I started running in the 90s, women candidates were almost always got a 3 to 5% bump just because their name was female on a ballot, because voters trusted a woman to take care of business. And that was a wonderful recognition of us females as elected officials. I think that's changed some now because we have more women elected officials. I don't know if you get a bump for that anymore. But I think it's, I don't know right now that there's a difference for a candidate, a woman versus a man. I honestly believe that it has to do with a person's willingness to get out and meet the public. I used to always joke, we elect judges in Texas, and during election season, that for some people was the only time they ever saw their judge. For some judges, it was the only time they went out to see the public. And if we're going to elect judges, we need to make sure that we know who they are and what they're doing. So I'm very much believe in the electoral process, and I think it goes typically to the person who works the hardest.
You've been in politics for a long time. So tell us, when you first began, when you entered a room, did you expect to be heard? Did you expect people to listen to you? And has that changed over time? Now, when you enter a room, is it different?
It's interesting you asked that, because we've been post the George Floyd homicide, have been having discussions in our office about how we deal with race and honestly sex also, because when I got hired here at the DA's office in 1981, there were not a lot of women. I was the third female lawyer in this office. And I can remember when I was a young prosecutor and was trying a case in Tarrant County representing the state, and the defense attorney was a female, and the judge referred to it as a cat fight. Welcome to the 80s, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that, and I shared that with a group of our lawyers, and I think they couldn't imagine that it was ever that way. And that's what I want it to be for our African-American attorneys. I want there to come a time in their lives where nobody can believe it was ever anything other than absolutely equal, because I honestly feel now like our attorneys are judged just by their work, which is how it ought to be, right? Their work and their character, and that's how it ought to be.
You talked about what advice you would give. What is good advice you were given about running for office?
I think the biggest thing is, we need to raise our sons and daughters, and whatever race they are, to realize that they can hold an elected office. Talk about it. Talk about with them, hey, you could be a judge, you could be the governor, you could be, I think that those things that we say to our kids when they're 10, 12 are the kinds of things that they remember. And we need to, you need to grow up thinking that there's going to be something greater in your life. And those, I think, are important opportunities to serve our community and do the right thing. What good advice did I get? So I've always been in the criminal justice field, really, lawyers, civil justice. And the idea being that, every single day you have to do the right thing. And, I was a judge for 23 years, and I used to tell my fellow judges, you just have to be able to go home every night and know that you did the right thing. That's it. That's as easy as it is. Law is law. We follow the law. And every night you have to go home, even if it's been a hard day or a hard decision that you've had to make, you have to go home knowing that it was the right thing under the law. That's all we can do. And then tempered that with mercy for defendants who are charged with offenses as appropriate. And that's something, as a prosecutor, I was thrilled to get the opportunity to go back to being a prosecutor after years on the bench, because this is the one job that specifically by law in the statute, it says prosecutors are not to seek to convict. That's not our job. I've had somebody has been asking me what our conviction rate is. And I truthfully tell him, I have no earthly idea. We don't keep it because if we kept a conviction rate, if it mattered to us that you win and what your percentage of wins are, then that sends the exact wrong message to everybody in my office. Because our job under the law is to make sure that justice is done, whatever that looks like. If that looks like dismissing a case early on because we got the wrong person or we can't prove it or it's not appropriate, then that's justice. If it means getting a sentence of life in the penitentiary for someone who rapes children, that's justice.
That's a little nugget I think some people listening to you is going to be surprised to hear that it's actually in the law. So thank you for sharing that. Let's end with a really open-ended question. Is there anything else you'd like to say? You'd like to expand on something you've already said? Or there's something about being an elected official that you'd like to comment about?
Well, right here on my credenza is my award. I am so grateful for this. I'm grateful for this because I can remember when I first was allowed to, I'm from Amarillo, Texas. Our farm was outside of Amarillo and Claude. And I remember when I turned 18 and got to register to vote, and it was huge. And that is the most important thing that we can do. Every single one of us, including, young women from Amarillo, Texas, to go register to vote because it is the opening up of all the opportunity that you'll ever have. So I was thrilled to get this award. Thank you so much for it. And I am grateful to the League of Women Voters for always encouraging women to vote and be involved.
What a lovely way to end. And we didn't even prompt you to tell people to vote. So
it's huge.
Thank you for that. And thank you for all you do. We appreciate your having been with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. And the League thanks the many donors who support its mission of empowering voters and defending democracy.